Bonsoir. Bonsoir. Hello, everyone. Bienvenue. I would like to welcome you to this conversation on behalf of the Playwrights Guild of Canada and the Siminovitch Theatre Foundation. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amy Blackmore. I've had the great fortune of acting as the executive and artistic director of Mainline Theatre, the Montreal Fringe Festival, and Bouge d'ici. As a cultural facilitator, I've had the pleasure of accompanying many emerging artists on their journey through my work with Playwrights Workshop Montreal, the Fringe Festival, and the English Language Arts Network. C'est avec un grand plaisir que je suis ici ce soir, and it is a great honor to spend time in the company of these amazing artists and colleagues. We would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all lands that we are on today. While we meet today in this virtual platform, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of these lands that we each call home. We are privileged today to be able to enjoy the benefits that they bring and which support all that we do. Turtle Island has always been a fertile place for plants, for trees, for animals, for birds, for water, and for culture and creativity. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home, and recognize them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. And I personally pledge to be rather to take better care of the land on which we live. I do pledge. Thank you, though, for joining us tonight for this conversation. That brings us all together to explore what fuels this outstanding work in Canadian theatre. Our hope is that if you are an artist, that you will leave this conversation inspired and with the practical tools you can apply to your own practice. And if you are a theatre goer, you will get a better understanding of the craft of playwriting. Tonight, you will hear from the 4 finalists who we're actually about to see on our screen. We're very excited to meet them all. The 4 finalists for the 2023 Siminovitch Prize. Here they are: David Yee, Anitafrika, Mishka Lavigne, Berni Stapleton, and David Yee. Welcome. Here they are. We have 2, we have 3, another one's coming. Here we go. All 5 of us. I'm really excited to gather with you here today. We're going to have great conversation together, but I would like to share that each of these shortlisted artists is making exciting work that challenges and delights their collaborators and their audiences, and each is a recognized and celebrated leader in their community and further afield. The Siminovitch Theatre Foundation is thrilled to honor excellence and innovation of these artists, values which were deeply meaningful in the lives of Dr. Lou Siminovitch and his playwright wife, Eleanor Siminovitch, after which the Siminovitch Prize is named. On the evening of December 4th, coming up super soon, Canada's Most Valued Theatre Prize will be awarded following the premiere of 4 inspiring documentaries about each finalist. So mark your calendars. You don't want to miss it. And congratulations again to you all.
Thank you.
So to start our evening tonight, we've asked each of the finalists to share a 2-minute monologue. Then, following the monologue, there will be a moderated conversation led by me and questions from the audience. All right. Moving ahead with our evening, our first playwright. I'm very excited for this. So, renowned Canadian playwright, activist, and theater scholar, David Yee Anitafrika is celebrated for transformative theater practices, advancing social justice. A non-binary African Jamaican Torontonian woman. Their work, including the acclaimed Sankofa, Orisha, and Ibeyi trilogies, demonstrates an unwavering commitment to Black queer feminist theatrical forms while rupturing colonial systemic oppression. Beyond writing, as founding artistic director of Wata Theater, David Yee has mentored hundreds of emerging playwright performers into industry leaders. They conceived the anitafrika method, decolonial performance praxis, nationally and globally applied in spaces like Soul Pepper Theater and the United Nations. David will be reading an excerpt of their play, Shimamawata and the Pussy Witch Hunt.
Thank you, Amy. Nikki works at an erotic dance club and has found herself in her old neighborhood in Jamaica on the pulpit of the church, preaching for her liberation, preaching to the congregation. No, I have no more room. I have no more room for no male god who sanctioned my death. Without me and my black hole, there would be no you, no myth, no story, no science, no culture, no economics, no capitalism, no colonization, no male god to sanction my death. Why are you devilizing my punani, my jade palace, my goddess flower that all of humanity come from? You name call, point finger at, step on, step in, violate, cut open, cut out, stab, butter, bruise, burn, chop, tighten, spit on, suffocate, and murder. And murder the deepest temple, which holds all the mysteries. You beat me and rape me and curse me and spit upon me and torture me and impoverish me. What do you know about liberation? What do you know about freedom? What do you know? There is no liberation until my pussy heal up, until my pum-pum stop cry blood, the tears that you instigate over and over and over and over again, making your male god with a penis and forget the cunt that you first kissed when I pushed you out of heaven. Me not living under no blood clot man government. Woman, WOMXN, woman, WIMMIN, woman, WOMYN, woman in church. Listen, it's lies they're telling. You, woman, you are not dirty. You are not smelly. You are not whorish. You are not dotish. You are not stupid. You are not weak. You are not ugly. Woman, carve out your own story. Woman, carve out the bullshit that has been pissed down your throat and plant a tree. Plant a tree of self-love to grow roots. This pussy shame. This pussy shame swept into my back like a white man's pride, riding my ass uninvited, making wealth. I feel no shame. I feel no shame, no guilt, no remorse. I feel no obligation or allegiance to some idea of woman, WOMXN, to some idea of woman, WIMMIN, to some idea of woman, WOMYN. Society picked up while trying to crawl out of its mother's belly and away from the mommy water. You, woman, you decide what is holy, what is decent. You decide what is proper. You, woman, lesbian, malacon, butch dyke, femme, queer, genderqueer, polyamorous, androgynous, polyandrous. You, human. You are human. We are human. We are all human. You decide your liberation. You decide your emancipation. And when you decide, come, congregation, come, pussy witches. is come into the mummy water. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be inviting all of our finalists to turn their camera on and welcome them back to our space. Thank you. I'm left speechless and inspired. There's something magical when a playwright reads their work. I'd like to share that. And there are lots of beautiful comments in the chat. Applause, hearts, incredibleness. Thank you. This is a wonderful opportunity we have. It's short and sweet, but this is a time where we can ask each other questions. If any of our other panelists this evening, our finalists, have any questions for David, or David, if you would like to share something about the work, this would be the time we could do that.
Any questions?
Berni.
Go ahead, Berni.
I just want to say, like, it's so overwhelming, passionate. Like, my soul is agitating in like a perfectly beautiful way of disturbance and hope and joy. And I love your pylon of words. I can just, it's just like the delivery, but the writing also, it's just so brilliantly built and gorgeous and just so magnificent. I'm just gonna go now. You're
awesome,
so
Berni.
amazing and beautiful. What a wonderful way to meet you.
You're awesome.
Yeah. No, that was astounding in every way. Just gorgeous and beautiful and moving. Yeah.
It's been so long to be in a room filled with playwrights. And I'm still just taking that in. Like I'm with playwrights from across the country, and it's pretty spectacular. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's exciting too is if you are joining us this evening at the end of our event, we are going to have a question period where you can, listeners or viewers rather, you'll be able to ask your own questions through our chat. So we're very much looking forward to that as well. So thank you so much, David.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great. Well, I think that we shall continue moving along with our evening. Je vais parler en français. On va aller dans ma deuxième langue que je suis très fière de partager avec vous ce soir. Mais parce que notre prochaine autrice, c'est Mishka Lavigne. Donc, Mishka Lavigne est autrice, scénariste et traductrice littéraire. Ces textes ont été produits et développés au Canada, aux États-Unis, en Europe, en Australie, en Haïti et au Mexique. Son texte Ouvre a remporté le prix littéraire du gouverneur général en 2019. Copeau a remporté ce même prix en 2021, ainsi que le prix Jacques Poirier. Mur s'est attiré des honneurs en France et sera porté à la scène en 2023. Mishka écrit aussi en anglais. Son texte Albumen est récipiendaire du QWF Playwriting Prize et Shorelines a été porté à la scène en 2023. Traductrice du français et de l'anglais, Mishka signe près d'une vingtaine de traductions de théâtre, de prose et de poésie. Mishka will be reading an excerpt in French of her play Copeau. And again, I do apologize that we don't have the direct translation at the same time, but we are again thankful for you to be here, and I will invite Mishka to start her reading. Merci.
Repentir, palimpseste, 4. Elle. Il a neigé pendant 8 jours et 8 nuits. J'ai marché dans la gadoue sale, dans le dégelé et le regelé vestige des roues des voitures. J'ai marché tellement longtemps que l'eau et le froid sont passés à travers l'épiderme de mes bottes. J'ai regardé le blanc propre des endroits peu fréquentés, mais je m'y suis pas aventurée. La tête me tournait juste à regarder ces territoires pas défrichés, ces territoires qui devraient pas être dans une ville qui grouille de monde, ces endroits pas aimés où personne n'a posé les pieds. J'ai marché comme une somnambule dans les souvenirs de toi, de nous, d'avant. J'ai essayé de saisir les moments de toi, de nous, d'avant, mais même avec mes mitaines, mes doigts avaient trop froid et ma main restait ouverte, les doigts figés, incapable de se refermer sur les choses. Je me suis tenue sur le pas de ta porte. J'ai tendu mes bras de somnambule vers la poignée comme si c'était normal, comme si j'avais encore la clé, comme si c'était encore chez moi. Devant ta porte, le vent avait poussé une vague de neige immaculée de 8 jours et j'ai compris que les pas que j'avais remontés jusqu'ici ne pouvaient pas être les tiens. Je suis repartie en marchant dans mes pas à moi, des orteils aux talons. Le vent avait viré et la neige s'était arrêtée. Les gens étaient sortis déneiger, éliminer toutes les traces de la tempête. J'ai douté de l'existence de toi, de nous, d'avant. Gratter la neige jusqu'à l'asphalte. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Mishka. Et le restant de nos finalistes vont nous joindre. We're going to invite our finalists back to join us on screen. Super. J'aimerais juste partager au monde que nous mettrons toutes les traductions à votre disposition après l'événement. So after our event, we will make sure that all the translations of our monologues are available to you. So we're thrilled to just find that news out. Donc, merci beaucoup, Mishka. Encore, je suis très touchée. C'est très intéressant d'entendre ta voix avec vos mots. Je suis très touchée et je me demande la question si un de nos finalistes a une question pour vous. If any of you do have a question for Mishka, let us know. Debbie.
I have a question, Mishka. I was fortunate enough to get the translation beforehand, so I'm so happy that I did. And you know, while I was reading it, the thing that washed over me was water. And I wanted to ask you, like, how does this element, does it even, I don't know, does the element of water factor into your writing process? Because I just felt so much water as I
Maybe throughout my process, water is very important. I grew up near water. I kind of always lived near water as well. But Copo specifically is the symbol, the main symbol is the forest. So it's these trees, it's things that are breaking down. So things in the forest that are breaking apart to be able to better be reborn. So it is forest, it is season, it is passage of time. So all of this is part of Copo. It's very poetic and symbolic and very, I don't know, earthen play of mine.
Yeah, that feels
Thank you.
C'est bien. Et je pense que, Debbie, je vais le répéter en français un peu la question parce que je trouve que c'est très intéressant. La question, ben, brièvement ou bref, c'est plutôt est-ce que l'image de l'eau est une image que vous voyez, un concept durant votre processus d'écriture? Et Mishka, est-ce que tu peux la répondre en français également?
Oui, Copo particulièrement, c'est un texte qui parle beaucoup de la forêt, des arbres. L'univers de symbole est beaucoup ancré dans quelque chose de forestier, autant dans le passage du temps dans la forêt, dans les choses qui meurent dans la forêt pour pouvoir faire renaître d'autres choses. Il y a beaucoup dans Copo aussi cette idée-là vraiment de passage du temps. C'est une relation qui se dégrade, mais petit à petit, c'est deux personnes qui se séparent ou qui vont sur des chemins différents. mais sans qu'il y ait vraiment de point d'explosion. C'est vraiment juste quelque chose qui se défait petit à petit, comme les feuilles qui tombent, comme la nature qui se défait pour arriver à l'hiver, pour renaître au printemps. Donc, c'était majoritairement ça, les images à l'intérieur de copeaux, le chant symbolique.
Mm. It's so nice to hear about the imagery and work. J'adore ce fait. Et je peux juste ajouter, c'est très intéressant parce que Debbie a une belle arbre à l'arrière de elle, de lui. It's all back there, this beautiful tree.
Literally
Nature.
in a
Yeah,
forest right
I
now.
know.
You talk of like forest and water and forest.
I feel like this was meant to be this evening, all of us together. Merci, Mishka.
Merci.
Et on a des beaux commentaires également. Ici, je vois quelqu'un qui écrit excellent, bravo.
That's
There are
my
lots of
mom.
fans. It's your mom. Oh, ben bienvenue, Huguette, c'est beau ça. Ah, it's so nice. That's so lovely. Bon, on va continuer avec notre soirée. Merci beaucoup. We're going to continue along with our evening, and I'm going to remember the images and the imagery as we continue through more of our readings. But next up, I'm excited to present Berni Stapleton. So Berni Stapleton is a playwright, author, and actor. She is the artistic director of Girl Power Inc. And co-artistic director of the Grand Falls Windsor Theater Project. She has spent her career making beautiful theater in unexpected places. She has had almost 40 plays professionally produced in Canada and beyond, including Ireland, the UK, and New York. Her plays include the iconic Offensive to Some, Woman in a Monkey Cage, Brazil Square, and The Pope, and The Princess Di. She lives in St. John's with Rescue Beagles, Georgie Girl, and Tiggy Duff. Berni will be reading 2 excerpts from her play, Ophelia Swims.
Hi, I am joining you this evening from the island of Utaunguk, the ancestral homeland of the Beothuk, whose culture has been lost forever and can never be recovered, the unceded and traditional territory of the Beothuk and the Mi'kmaq, and Labrador, the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Innu and the Inuit. And I am reading this evening from Ophelia Swims. This is a Newfoundlandish feminist queer imagining of the character Ophelia from Shakespeare's Hamlet. I will read 2 excerpts. We see Ophelia, who is a beekeeper. She is making a TikTok. To be a bee or not to be a bee, is there a question? The thought plickens. Is it better to let these little arrow slingers sleep away our fortunes, rewrite the heavenly scriptures, or rouse them to take wing and solve our troubles? Restore the texts. Oh, the bees, they sleep to dream of a field of yellow pistil-beds. Hope springs eternal. The Creator has given me one face, but I will make myself another. If I follow those bees into their undiscovered country, breathe pollen down that deep dead man's pond, would I lose my fear and swim? I will suck the honey. I will become ice. I will become snow. I will join in the dream, and when I wake up, you'll all be like poof. What if we rise to inflict the stings and barbs of all our sorrows upon you, Zing? O sting, where's thy death? In the meantime, Gertrude is on the phone, placating her new wife, Claudia. Hello, Claudia, my trout, my lover. Yes, I hear you. You're not putting up with the likes of this. Well, I don't know where Hamlet is at the moment. This child of mine, with all their play acting, well, they were always for seeking attention. They have their mother much offended. They have wagged their tongue against me for the last time. I said to them, do you want to kill your only mother? Is that what you want? Oh, Claudia, my trout, my lover, of course, I don't believe for one moment you would push my late husband, your own twin brother, into a vat of toxic fish sauce. not on purpose. And what about the bees? So the bees will just pollinate the plants with eyedroppers, like the way we had to, feed the kittens that time when Hamlet drowned the cat.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Berni.
You're welcome.
We'll invite our finalists back to join us again. What a gift to get to hear you read from what looks like could be your home on top of it.
It is, yes.
And I'm touched to have that opportunity because it's very personal. And I feel that a lot of the work this evening is personal and from the heart. And thank you for inviting us into your home for that reading.
Thank you, Berni.
Yeah, coming back to our group here, and coming back, Berni, to your work, I throw it over to you, finalists. We're here to hear you tonight. Does anyone have any thoughts they'd like to share, quelque chose à partager with Berni about our work, or any questions? Oui, Mishka.
Is the beekeeping, is it a part of the entire work? Is it something that you've been obsessing about? I'm always intrigued by this idea of beekeeping. It feels so personal and special somehow, and it's very powerful to see it, and something that is like resonant of Shakespeare, but also this.
Oh, thank you so much. That's such a beautiful question. Several years ago, my colleague Nicole Smith and I were walking down a road in Grand Falls, Windsor, and we found a bee on the ground that had only one wing. And so we could not save it, but I became obsessed with bees, and it found its way into the world of Ophelia. In the play, Ophelia discovers she can change her destiny, and it felt like bees were very profound omens of change and fertility and hope, and also a matriarchal structure. So it just felt like so much fun to make Ophelia a beekeeper.
Even just like beyond, like just as a detail, I don't know, it just grabs you. I hear beekeeper, I'm like, tell me more. Yeah, I have a real like love-hate relationship with Hamlet, and that was just it's lovely to get such a fresh sort of take on it. Really, yeah, I dug that. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
That's so great. And there's lots of comments also on your work, lots of hearts, to be or not to be. And, we have someone, OMG, Berni, you are so funny. And merci beaucoup. So it's very exciting. Thank you, everyone, for engaging with us. And thank you so much, Berni, for sharing your work with us. So we have our final finalist, who's already here on our screen with us. I'm very excited to present David Yee. So David is mixed race, half Chinese, half Scottish playwright and actor, born and raised in Toronto. He is the co-founding artistic director of Fujian Theatre Company, Canada's premier professional Asian Canadian theatre company. He is a two-time Governor General's Literary Award nominee for his plays Lady in the Red Dress and Carried Away on the Crest of a Wave, which won the award in 2015 along with the Carol Bolt Award in 2013. He currently teaches playwriting at the University of Toronto and has worked extensively in the Asian Canadian community as an artist and an advocate. David will be reading an excerpt from his play, R.H. Thompson's Masterclass, or How to Become Chinese for Funding Purposes. David, I think you might be muted.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's my first time using Zoom.
Welcome back.
So, yeah, no, I thank you. Rewind. as a backgrounder, this is R.H. Thompson, acclaimed Canadian actor R.H. Thompson, and this is a monologue given by him in yellowface with his eyes taped back and a black bowl cut wig on. And he is on the set of a masterclass, those stupid videos where Glenn Close teaches you how to act. And he says, so what I saw, what we all saw, was the funding going in a new and specific direction. You know, gone were the days of these applications being simple formalities for artists of a certain ilk. You know, suddenly we were cast out like lepers, like very attractive, square-jawed, healthy, and immensely talented lepers. The names on the marquees of all the theaters now weren't Don or George or Norm. They were, you know, Marjorie or Hero or Anita. That's actually why we don't have marquees anymore at the theaters, because, I mean, I don't think we can spell those names with our alphabet. But they're great writers. You know, the plays are really astonishing works of art. And they talk about all the Canadian things I've felt myself, to be on the fringes, stigmatized, not feeling represented, not having a voice. For these artists, it's their race, the color of their skin, their language. For me, it's my height. I'm 6'3", taller in a heeled Oxford, which I wear every day. Only 2.1% of the world is tall, medically tall. I have to be very careful around doorways, chandeliers, the looks that I get on the streets, the comments, oh, how's the weather up there? Ignorance. So I connected to these plays, these struggles, on a very intimate plane. In 1995, I came across a little-known play by a Chinese playwright called My Phoenix, My Concubine, the Musical. You know, this play had it all. Song, dance, important cultural references that were easily removed. It employed several Oriental theatrical traditions for which I immediately saw the opportunity to translate into naturalism. The role of the Phoenix spoke to me on a visceral level. It was a dream role, like Tom in The Glass Menagerie. But I'd already played him several times. I wrestled with it for hours, finally deciding that I must inhabit the role of the Phoenix. There was only one problem. I wasn't Chinese. Yet. I'm R.H. Thompson, and this is my masterclass. That's all I got.
That's great. Thank you so much. How cool to be a playwright and also an actor. C'est très intéressant d'avoir quelqu'un qui est auteur, mais aussi peut faire son propre interprétation. J'adore ça. I love it. Thank you so much, David. I throw it over to you. Do we have any comments or questions from our finalists for David?
I just want to go back and replay the whole evening and start over and do it in slow motion. And David, that was so funny. That was so funny and just brilliant and just so, yet so multi-layered. You're such a good performer too.
So good. So good. That was so good, David.
It's recognizing, it's like it's so familiar to, I guess, you know, it's like, I guess maybe we've all known somebody like that.
Mm.
So good.
For the record, R.H. Thompson is not actually like that. He's a lovely, lovely.
Yes. Yes, we know.
Yeah.
I have to admit,
this portrayal of him. Like, does he love this portrayal of himself?
Oh yeah, no, he's totally down for it. He's been great.
Yeah.
I wanted to share that my face hurts from smiling, just being so pleased with this evening, with hearing your work, David, with hearing the rest of our work. And I know that there are burning questions from our audience, from our viewers that we're going to get to in a moment. And again, we have some just great specific comments on what we just heard. I'm a huge fan of David's work. This was a gift. Awesome hearts, hand wave, wonderful. So what a wonderful world to get to be online and get to use those little images too with the hand wave. Donc, on va poursuivre avec notre conversation ensemble. We're going to do our conversation together. Moi, j'ai plein de questions qui sont prêtes, mais je sais que le monde qui écoute ont des questions aussi. So I have questions ready myself, and I know some of you who are watching also have, but it's so rare that playwrights do get to be in a room together. So I am particularly looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts. J'ai très hâte à vous entendre parce que c'est vraiment un moment rare pour nous qu'on soit ensemble en groupe. Ben, moi, I say consomme. I'm not a playwright, but it's great to have you all together in the group is what I meant. So je pense my first question for you, and it could be for any of you, ma première question, pourquoi le théâtre? Why theater for you? It's a big one.
It's such a big one. For me, it's theater because theater is storytelling. And storytelling holds all the possibilities for my own emancipation and the emancipation of the planet. Through theater, I, in relation to the community, with the community, can envision a different world, and a world that has space for everyone, and space that's like not harmful, not violent, not exclusive. Through theater, I can dream, and I can go beyond dreaming. I can articulate as the playwright. I can co-articulate this world that I want to be a part of, that I hope my children will be able to experience, or my children's children will be able to experience. So it's theater for me for the possibility for emancipation.
Pour moi, je dirais que le théâtre, c'est vraiment la forme d'art qui, pour moi, est la forme d'art la plus humaine. Donc, c'est un rassemblement d'humains sur scène, c'est des humains sur scène qui se présentent devant des humains dans la salle, qui mettent en scène un morceau d'humanité. Je crois que l'art vivant, que ce soit le théâtre, que ce soit la danse, que ce soit la musique, l'opéra, c'est une façon de reconnaître ce qui est humain à l'intérieur de nous. Je crois que c'est vraiment ça qui est à la base de ma pratique, c'est vraiment aller voir comment aller chercher l'humanité chez les personnages, même si c'est un personnage qui est très loin de nous, même si c'est un personnage qui vit quelque chose qu'on ne connaît pas, on est capable de reconnaître quelle est l'expérience humaine qu'on peut voir sur scène. Puis, il y a ça, mais il y a aussi le fait que c'est quelque chose qui se crée en groupe, le théâtre. Donc, c'est pas la même chose qu'écrire tout seul chez soi. C'est vraiment une façon de pouvoir travailler avec d'autres, de pouvoir être dans un monde où l'expérience collective qu'on crée a aussi été faite en collectif.
Merci. C'est vrai que c'est très spécial le moment où on voit le public devant la scène avec les joueurs. It's a magical moment when you have the actors on stage, the audience there, and the meeting of those ideas together, the collective together. Thank you for sharing that. Berni, can I ask you what attracted you to theater?
I think I think it's the only place that would have me. That's something, an odd way to put it, but it's something really I didn't know was possible when I was little, and yet early in my career I found myself in the world of theater, and it's such a welcoming, strange, alien space that I just occupy my little part of it happily, gratefully. And I love that theater is still a very slow thing in a very fast world. And I think, like everyone has expressed so far, the ability to make change in increments and the majesty of and audacity of beginning with one word on one page, and then maybe sometime later, some ways down the road, 10 years, 20 years, it will be on the stage, and then your conversation begins that you started all those years ago. And there's something to that I'll never, ever get tired of.
Thank you. I have to share that to me, you are all change makers. Absolutely. It's very inspiring. Thank you. And David, I'm going to throw it over to you as well. What is it that pulled you in? Why theater?
I was no good at making pottery. I tried. It never worked out. I literally just answered this question for the documentary people, and I'm going to give a different answer because I like to be misunderstood. What I like about theater is that it's the art form where we get to be in dialogue with ourselves, nationally, but also in our communities, right? In our cultural communities, we get to ask ourselves really big, unanswerable questions. We get to let ourselves know how we're doing and what still needs to be done, and where the work is being felt, where it's being effective, where there's gaps, where and it shows us that our lived experiences are incredibly subjective, and that there are realities just adjacent to us that are wildly disparate. And I feel like theater achieves that better than any place else. So yeah, that's why I like it. Also, just shit at pottery.
Thank you. I'll be watching out for the doc. I'm very curious to see how you answered it in that context as well. But no, it's great. It's really rich. Thank you so much for your comments, everyone. Je vais aller à une deuxième question que j'ai. Et pour moi, c'est quoi qui peut nous prendre par surprise à propos de votre pratique artistique? What might surprise us to learn about your own artistic practice as playwrights? We don't have to share the biggest secrets, but I think there's a few in there. Everyone's got their thing, right? Or alternatively, this is one that I'm actually very curious about. Where do you write? Où est-ce que tu te situes pendant que tu écris?
Yeah,
Is it everywhere?
Right now, I read, because I'm in a hotel right now. I read a lot in hotels.
Mm.
I spend an inordinate amount of time writing in hotels, and I actually choose hotel rooms by looking through the photos and looking at the chairs at the desk, being like, yeah, I could sit in that for a few hours. That is literally how I choose hotel rooms now. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know if it's terribly surprising that my practice is very, like, for some of the untraditional things that come out of me. It's still very much me and a laptop alone, closed off from the world, just typing into the night. Like, it's a solitary practice for me. Like, that's just how it goes. And I've tried breaking out of that. I'm like, no, there's just is always going to be that thing. It won't be the whole thing. There's going to be, like when it's brought into a room and there's collaboration and like all there's aspects of the process that are always going to be very, very different and very inclusive and very have to go out and see people, but the core of it is always going to be me, probably in a hotel room, just drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes.
Well, the mind alone is a beautiful thing. Go ahead. Oui.
I do most of my writing at home in my home office. I'm not good at writing in cafes. I wish I was. It looks like a lot of fun. But I get easily distracted. So and currently I'm in Grossmorn National Park at the playwrights residency there, a bilingual playwright residency. We got in last week. So this is my first time in Newfoundland. So I am writing in residency right now, trying to get out of my room and write in. There's a little library here. Today I worked outside. So it's a nice change of pace from home. But usually I'm a very home-based writer, but my work has been kind of the scope has been pretty vast in the last few years of writing some devised pieces. So Copo was actually a devised piece. We worked on it for 5 years throughout a bunch of workshops and a bunch of moments of coming together to create the play. And then there are pieces of mine that are very much, let's say, like classic in a sense. Like I write it and then bring it to a director, then bring it to actors and workshop it. And then I have these more collaborative processes throughout, which are becoming more and more common in my practice. But overall, because I'm someone who doesn't direct, and I don't feel like I have that inkling, and I don't feel like it's something that is that resonates for me, the idea to direct my work. There is always that moment where I give it to somebody else to direct, and that brings kind of a whole new vibe or a whole new perspective on the words. And the process and the characters in the story. And I've had, collaborations that have gone on throughout the years with directors. So it's always that fragile and vulnerable moment where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to give this play now, and it doesn't belong to only me anymore.
Ben, Mishka, j'ai une question pour toi sur le sujet. Le moment que tu transmets le document, le texte à quelqu'un qui fait la mise en scène, tu viens de décrire que c'est un moment fragile, potentiellement vulnérable. Est-ce que c'est aussi un moment avec un peu de peur pour toi? Je suis curieuse.
Mais je crois que généralement, c'est que ça part pas de nulle part non plus. Généralement, j'ai été en conversation avec le metteur en scène, avec les gens pendant une certaine période plus ou moins longue en créant le texte. Mais ça, je parle vraiment pour les créations, quand c'est la première fois que ça joue. Quand ça rejoue ailleurs, ben là, ça, c'est sûr que c'est différent, surtout si c'est pas au Canada. Mais il y a vraiment un moment où j'aime pouvoir donner le texte, j'aime pouvoir avoir ces autres yeux-là, ces autres mains-là, ces autres perspectives-là sur mon travail, sur mes idées. J'aime beaucoup l'idée que quelqu'un puisse voir le texte dans son état pas tout à fait fini, puis puisse comme se nourrir, puis me nourrir en même temps aussi.
Super, super. Well, so in more about process, I think we're curious to hear what's the first sort of image, whether it be a place, a character, or a line, that usually comes to mind when you have an idea for a play? How does it start? En général, c'est quoi l'image? Quelle est la première image, pardon, le lieu, personnage, est-ce que c'est une réplique, qui vous viennent généralement en tête lorsqu'une idée d'une pièce germe en vous. And also, the interesting thing about it doesn't have to be the same across the board. I'm sure that there are things about our processes that are the same, things that vary, but we're curious to know what comes first. What comes first for you, Bernie?
It's such a thought. It's such a thought provoking question. I, most of my first, I like to call my best worst first drafts are always written in my head first. I build the characters and the story in my head, and I usually walk around water a lot. And Mishka knows what I'm talking about now because you're in the majesty of Newfoundland. So it's walking, and then I carry around little cards with me, and I bring them home and I stick them on the wall. And that's all my first process. With Ophelia Swims, for example, I just became obsessed with how, like if Ophelia just decided, I'm not going to lie here very passively and wait. I'm gonna just F everybody up and swim, and I just became obsessed with that. And I started playing with ideas of what would happen in a world, and I just kept that image in my head of, how that image is romanticized so much in our pop culture, Ophelia floating in the lake and flowers and everything. And I wanted to expose the underbelly of that. And then from there, I will hammer out a really bad first draft, and then I work from there. But I do use images a lot in my work, and I listen to music a lot when I'm writing. And it varies. It's never one thing or the same thing, but I like the background of music.
Nice. To be a fly or a bee on the wall for that. I have to share with you, I wrote down best worst first draft. I'm quoting you on that. I like that a lot.
I made a little guide for some people that I was mentoring once, and it literally, I called it how to do your best worst first draft, or prepare to throw the pasta.
That's great. Thank you. Debbie, what about you? Oh, I think you're muted. Sorry.
I've been thinking about that, listening to you folks. I come to playmaking through poetry, and a very particular genre of poetry that originates in Jamaica. It's called dub poetry, D-U-B, as in before. Dub poetry is a poetry that centers people and their socio-economic, political state of being. It's a performance poetry considered, well, it is a descendant, comes out of the African griot storytelling tradition, originally spoken in the national language of Jamaica, but now spoken in many languages, and very rhythmic. And so in creating dub poetry, it's primarily an oral tradition, began as an oral tradition in the early 70s, late 60s. And so you create dub, you write dub in your head, you write dub in a rhythm, or I write dub in my head in a rhythm. And so coming to theater from dub, I sort of create theater rhythmically first. So characters will emerge through rhythm and repetition and poetry. And then once I have the poems, almost all the plays I've written have a poem, a central poem that they emerged around. There's always a poem that then grew into a play. And I write biomyths, which is beginning with the biographical and then expanding into the mythologized. So the writing is happening everywhere all the time. It's happening in the forest, it's happening by the river, it's happening by the ocean, it's happening at home, it's happening everywhere, because so much of my work, in fact, all of my work focuses on what's happening in society right now with people and the planet, and our state of wellness and freedom. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to hear origin stories for your work, for all of you. Je sais, Mishka, que vous avez un pratique de poésie également, différent, mais également. Oh non, mais est-ce que j'avais lu? Oh non, tu faisais la traduction de poésie, c'est ça?
Oui.
Ah, intéressant.
Moi, à la base, moi, je suis formée comme comédienne. Donc, le rythme ou la façon dont le texte va être livré, c'est quelque chose c'est une chose à laquelle je pense beaucoup quand j'écris. Donc, c'est vraiment cette idée-là que ces mots-là vont être dits par des gens, puis de faire vraiment attention au rythme, à la parole comme telle. C'est une chose qui m'importe beaucoup dans mon travail. Mais généralement, moi, ma pratique commence beaucoup par images, plusieurs images, puis après ça, ce que je pourrais appeler des genres de chants symboliques, qui sont créés soit avec les chants symboliques appartiennent à un personnage, ou les chants symboliques appartiennent à un lieu de la pièce, ou le chant symbolique appartient à disons, une émotion, si on veut. Puis j'aime l'idée de faire rencontrer ces chants symboliques-là. Une image que j'utilise beaucoup quand je parle de mon travail, c'est l'idée d'une tresse. Donc, si on a plusieurs brins, plusieurs champs symboliques, il y a des endroits où, quand on fait une tresse, les champs vont se rencontrer, puis après ça, ils vont s'éloigner. Puis à la fin, tout s'attache avec une belle boucle. Donc, c'est un peu comme ça que je crée les univers de mes textes ou les imaginaires qui font partie de mon écriture.
Super. Et c'est intéressant aussi d'entendre un peu de vos expériences, que vous étiez formé comédien. Maintenant, tu es là comme auteur. Je trouve le parcours très riche, et it's really just interesting, I'm saying, to hear, how our past selves inform our current selves in playwriting, and all of your unique paths that have brought you there. It's really enriching. So thank you for sharing about those. And David, where does it start for you? I'll let you cap us off on that question, besides choosing the chair, of course, in the hotel room.
Yeah, that's essential. And then is where I've been listening to all of your answers, and I'm like, yeah, it's a little bit of that, it's a little bit of that, there's a little bit of that. Because yeah, there is music, there's definitely poetry that plays a part. But I find more often than not, I can't really start, even with the bad first draft. I can't start until I know the end. Whether it's a image or a line, or just the general shape of what it's going to be. Like Carried Away, I knew it was going to end with all I knew was going to be a very long monologue, and it ends in a 7-page monologue. Didn't know what it was going to be about, but I knew that that's what it wanted to be. And yeah, I'm often wrong about everything surrounding what that ending is, what I think is going to be about, or who's speaking, who's doing it, who's alive at the end. Until I know what that final image when the lights go out is going to be, I can't really start putting the rest of it together.
Right on.
I feel like it's the same for me. I kind of always have this idea of how it's going to end, like, you know, the last thing before it blacks out.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I have that, then I can just get to it somehow.
Yeah, it gives you something like, it's like, okay, there's the finish line. I just have to, get past the volcano between, here and there.
I love it. Thank you. We're so lucky we have questions from our viewers. So I'm going to go ahead and read one that's come in from Milton. So thank you for sharing this with us. What unique playwriting techniques or conventions have emerged in your practices, and how do you feel they transform or propose new directions for theatrical practice in your contexts? So what unique playwriting techniques or conventions have emerged in your practices, and how do you feel they transform or propose new directions for your theatrical practice in your contexts?
I think one of the biggest developments that has emerged from my work is trying to understand how being colonized impacts the playwriting techniques that I utilize and the content of the work. So much of I've been doing a PhD over the last 5 years and focusing on, like, we're in this global conversation about decolonizing in all spheres of life and in all disciplines, artistic disciplines. And what exactly does that mean? Like, what does it mean to decolonize as a theater maker? And what does it mean to decolonize as a playwright? So this isn't so much about a convention that's been developed, but a consideration that I'm engaged in with my own work, and then supporting other playwrights and other arts practitioners and practitioners in general to consider, as artists, we're leading the society in so many different ways, and what kind of accountability and responsibility do I have to investigate my own creative process from a decolonial lens? And then what is a decolonial lens? How does an artist decide and understand how colonization impacts their own worldview, impacts what they write about, impacts how they portray certain characters in their work? And so, again, not a convention, but definitely a process, that Milton, that is transforming the direction of theater and the process of theater making. A process is this commitment to developing a decolonial process, and that's been a big part of the work that I've been doing, is developing a praxis that practitioners can use to investigate their own coloniality. And I apply that praxis to myself because I am, as all of us are, colonized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where can we find out more about this practice?
It's called the Anitafrika method. I'm almost done the PhD. I hand in the dissertation in January.
Ooh, it's so exciting.
But I've already, I teach globally, and I just finished a full length module at Soul Pepper Theater using the praxis, and so it's making its round. But I think officially the dissertation will be the thing to read. Yes.
Right on. Well, I'll let you all continue to marinate on the question that was asked, but we do have another one that I would like to bring to our attention. So thank you, David. In order to bring your writing to an audience, you need partners and collaborators. What priorities or considerations affect your choices? Donc, bon, je pense que je vais essayer de le dire en français également. Pourquoi pas? Fait que, ben, pour amener à votre audience votre écriture, de besoin de chercher et trouver des partenaires ou collaborateurs. C'est quoi les priorités ou les considérations durant ce processus de réflexion quand tu fais vos choix? Je sais, Mishka, on vient de parler de ben, tu viens de mentionner que tu collabores beaucoup dans votre processus. Tu travailles souvent avec du monde que tu connais, de temps en temps avec des projets. Est-ce que tu peux élaborer un peu plus là-dessus?
Ben, je dirais, en termes de collaborateurs, c'est un peu, bon, on est tous pigistes, on travaille avec les gens qui veulent travailler avec nous, ou on a des compagnies comme David. Mais je crois que la personne, le collaborateur le plus important, je dirais, dans ma pratique en ce moment, c'est un conseiller dramaturgique. Donc, so a dramaturge, I would say, is my most precious collaborator at this point in my practice. Je travaille avec Antoine Côté-Legault, qui est basé à Sudbury. On se connaît depuis longtemps. C'est mon conseiller dramaturgique. On travaille en ce moment sur le projet que j'écris ici. Un nouveau texte, c'est notre 7e collaboration. Donc, Antoine, c'est vraiment quelqu'un avec qui je travaille depuis 10 ans. On a formé notre pratique collaborative de conseillers et d'autrices ensemble pendant ces 10 années-là. Donc, c'est vraiment quelqu'un qui est capable de poser les bonnes questions, d'orienter des choses aux bons endroits. C'est quelqu'un que j'amène quand je suis en laboratoire avec des comédiens, quand je suis en laboratoire avec des compagnies. C'est vraiment une personne qui a amené mon écriture beaucoup plus loin quand on a commencé à travailler ensemble en 2013. Puis maintenant, je crois vraiment que c'est la personne qui est le plus capable d'expliquer ma pratique, qui connaît des choses de mon écriture que j'arrive pas à comprendre moi-même parce que j'ai tellement le nez dedans. Antoine est capable de faire des liens, de faire des ponts. Puis je crois que ça, c'est très précieux comme relation. Puis c'est vraiment quelque chose qui s'est forgé au fil des années. On pensait travailler ensemble une fois. Puis là, on est rendu à 7 fois. Puis on a fait partie d'un collectif d'écriture ensemble où on a produit des spectacles en collectif dans lesquels on travaillait ensemble avec d'autres. On a fait en fait même deux collectifs d'écriture différents ensemble. Donc, je crois que c'est vraiment la personne qui est mon collaborateur le plus précieux. Puis c'est quelqu'un qui est dans l'ombre de la pratique. Donc, c'est pas quelqu'un qui fait la mise en scène. C'est pas quelqu'un qui est sur scène. C'est vraiment quelqu'un qui travaille sur le texte, sur la création, sur les espèces de grandes questions qui appartiennent pas à la scène. Puis après, souvent, il se déplace vers la production, il se déplace vers la scène, vers la mise en scène. Puis je crois que c'est pour ça que c'est vraiment une des collaborations les plus précieuses qu'il y a dans ma pratique.
C'est super. Je vais lui rencontrer maintenant.
Il va être dans le documentaire.
Ah, super. OK, une autre mention du doc. Tous les docs vont être sortis. Je pense ben, bientôt. On va avoir plus d'informations là-dessus, mais c'est super. It's interesting to hear you just say that you find the relationship, you know, between yourself and your dramaturge, and that relationship in general being a precious one, an important one. And I'm curious to know if the rest of you work with dramaturges or other folks that are important to your process as writers or as playwrights.
Yeah, I tend to work with the same people. I've worked with not very good dramaturgs, and it really is, it's a lot like dating. trying to find the right person. And then when you do, you're like, I'm holding on to you forever. So it's a really, really, it's a very, very special relationship, and one that you sort of like, you want to offer to other people. You're like, this person's great, but at the other hand, you're like, no, they're mine. How dare you? So yeah, I mean, like, you know, and shout out to Nina Aquino, who's my like forever dramaturg, and Matt McGeechee, who formerly of Factory, and a big shout out to Iris Turcotte, who was you know, just my heart and soul, my heart and verbally abusive soul. Sometimes it's what you need.
It's so nice to hear these lovely shout outs. We appreciate it. And great news, the documentaries, the docs, they're going to be released on December 4th. So that'll be the same day as the announcement of the laureate. Donc, on peut voir tous les documentaires vont être sortis le 4 décembre, la même jour qu'on va annoncer la personne qui gagne le prix cette année. What about you, David or Berni? Do you work with dramaturges?
Yes, I am so fortunate to have such a strong relationship with Playwright Atlantic Resource Center, Pamela Halstead, Don Hanna, Santiago Guzman is the now interim artistic director there, and it's such a tremendous resource. And you know, being a dramaturg is like, it's such an indefined, it's like going to the doctor and he says, where does it hurt? And you're like, I don't know exactly, but it hurts when I do this. You know, it's such an, and I'm very fixated on process at this stage in my career. I wish that it was possible to get a grant that would just allow you to figure out how you like to write. That would just let you figure out who you are deep down inside, that you know is moving this machine along to find these stories, these words, these poems, these music. It's never the same way twice. And every time we come together with a play, it's like, oh, that worked, but you can never repeat it. You know, it's always like building a perfect storm of what is going to make the magic, and there's never a formula, because I find that mentoring fills my soul a great deal. It's a two-way relationship with me. I find I always get way more in the conversation. But yes, dramaturgs, I find in a lot of grant applications too, you are often asked to explain what the risk of your project is, like what makes this a challenge. And I just want to say, it's always a risk to dare to do this, to say, I'm going to make a play. Who am I? It's the scariest thing in the world. And I'm just have so much respect for everybody else on this panel tonight. So thank you for asking me to babble a little bit.
We hear you and appreciate it.
Yeah, I am a dramaturg that practitioners work with, but I don't so much work with dramaturgs. But everybody who is on the team is my dramaturg. So I've got it's a long developmental process for me, from concept to full realization. So I go through workshops and workshops and workshops. And so when I write the first draft, the team, so that's the director, and my director is usually my mentor, you know. So I work a lot with the elders in my community, the folks who've gone before me, you know. I work with them, they direct my work, they mentor me along the way, you know. I work with Walid and I work with Janet and Audrey, and they sort of teach me and dramaturg the work. So dramaturgy is happening through the mentorship with the director, with the composer, with the rest of the team. Dramaturgy is happening with the costume designer and the set designer. And then dramaturgy happens in this relationship with the community. So in my work, talkbacks are like an essential part of the process. I remember a time when folks were like, in Toronto, folks are like, that's every day, every show, talk back. Why? I need the community to be in relation with for the work. The work, I make the work so that we can talk about the content of the work, so that we can talk about these things that are taboo in the community, and that the work creates a safe space for us to do that. The ritual of going to the theater, sitting in the space, and then having access to each other is a whole container to talk about the systemic oppression and to talk about liberation, emancipation. So dramaturgy is happening throughout that whole process. And in a first draft talkback, the audience is invited to consciously critique the work, to say what's missing from the work, to say how the work is misrepresenting whomever and whatever is being presented. And then I go back to the drawing board and write the second draft, same process. The audience is invited to critique the work. And so I do this for about 5 or 6 drafts before an actual complete play is made. And most of the theater that I've created has been created in this way. So dramaturgy becomes this relationship with all the members of the collective who are bringing their own expertise. And as the playwright, often playwright performer, I then take that information, go back to the drawing board to recreate the piece, to then present it to the community. Community dramaturgy.
Community dramaturgy. Love it. Thank you. We've learned a lot this evening, and it's been so nice to hear you all demystify a little more about your process. We have one final question. Il nous reste une dernière question avec des réponses assez short and sweet. Short and sweet answers for this one. Are we ready for it? On est prête? We want to know what in your wildest dreams is the thing that is going to be next for you. Alors, c'est quoi qui est prochain pour toi? Et ça peut être, on rêve grand si on veut, mais what's next? Wildest dreams. Beyond dinner, of course. But no, what is next for you? Sometimes it's hard to look ahead, but we want to know. We want to hear what's next for you. Berni, you're nodding your head. I think you're thinking on it. You go for it.
Oh, I just want us all to keep writing plays and making this statement into the world. Selfishly speaking, I can't wait to see everybody in person. I'm so obsessed now with community dramaturgy. You said short and sweet. I want to perhaps see Ophelia Swims illuminate a world of beekeeping on stage with gallons of pollen and honey to sweeten the world.
Thank you, Berni. What about you, David?
I think I'm going to go back to pottery. Just really make a go of it. I feel like I gave up too easily. I don't know. I mean, I like quite literally. What I'm looking forward to next is reading Berni and Mishka's work and more of David's work, which I already know and am a huge fan of. But yeah, I want to delve more into the works of these people that I'm honored to be among.
J'adore. Et pour toi, Mishka?
J'aimerais avoir oui, plus de temps. On dirait que je voudrais lire plein de choses, je voudrais voir tout, puis c'est jamais possible. Like I just wished teleportation was a thing, so I could just go see all the plays, and like, you know, come back and sleep in my bed after. Vraiment, ce serait
Ouais.
le rêve, ce serait vraiment de pouvoir avoir la possibilité de, oui, de voyager plus. Puis c'est sûr que voyager plus pour pouvoir voir ce qui se fait d'un bout à l'autre d'un pays immense comme le Canada, ce serait extraordinaire. C'est sûr que quand on rentre dans plein de considérations environnementales, on rentre dans plein de considérations, etc. Mais dans le meilleur des mondes, tout ça serait très, très facile. Puis on pourrait vraiment avoir une communauté qui est plus large, autant francophone qu'anglophone, qu'autochtone à l'intérieur du pays, pour pouvoir vraiment être une communauté plus unie.
Merci pour la vision. And Debbie, short and sweet, wildest dreams.
I think Siminovitch Foundation should have a playwriting symposium so that we can all be in the same room. Because you have all reminded me of how exciting and excited I get when I'm around other theater makers who are so passionate about their work. And so that's one thing that's next. And the next thing that's next is a collection of all the plays that I've written over the last 25 years that's going to be published in December. And I'm ready for that moment to happen.
Oh, love it. Well, everyone's listening, so we'll see what takes place in the future. But thank you so much. Thank you to Biyang for being here. Thank you, Mishka, Berni, David, for sharing in both your practical and visionary perspectives of the craft of playwriting. It's really been a pleasure to get to moderate this conversation and to welcome you. Je vous remercie sincèrement et j'aimerais également remercier l'audience qui sont parmi nous. I want to thank you also to our audience that were here this evening. But let's have a final wave from all of our finalists. It was so lovely to meet you and have you. Mais j'ai quelques mots pour la fin, pour tout le monde qui écoute. So just please feel free to drop a note in the chat, share what came up for you during our discussion. We'd love to give that a read. I see there's lots of congratulations and really nice words being shared. So don't forget to mark your calendar though, everyone, December 4th, to watch what we talked about before, the Siminovitch Prize documentaries and the announcement of the 2023 winner. Donc le 4 décembre, c'est là l'opportunité de voir tous les documentaires et de connaître c'est qui va gagner le prix de cette année. Over $130,000 will be awarded, and this is funded each year by the support of hundreds. That's right, hundreds of donors and sponsors without whom there would be no Siminovitch Prize. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde pour tout votre soutien du prix. We want to thank all of our supporters, en particulier Power Corporation of Canada, the presenter of the 2023 Siminovitch shortlist. We also want to invite you to tune in for the 2023 Tom Hendry Awards presented by the Playwrights Guild of Canada, streaming live from the Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre, Tom Hendry Warehouse on Saturday, October 29th at 7 p.m. with the fabulous Bo Dixon. Alors, une autre belle opportunité de voir et de participer dans notre communauté. Thank you again. Take care of yourselves and each other. Good night et bonsoir. Merci.